everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Sounds Profitable Product Deep Dive. This month, we're going to be digging into the Spreaker product by Voxnest. And I have here our guest, Mattia Verzella, Head of Partnerships and Enterprise Sales at Voxnest. Mattia, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much.
Well, I'm really excited about this. I think, Spreaker and the parent company Voxnest were purchased by iHeart last year, and a lot of people have been curious about what they can do with the tool. So you're going to walk us through the Spreaker product today, from hosting all the way to reporting, and it's going to be appealing to see what a publisher can do with this and how advertisers get their, ads onto these partners. So like what the end result there is. So this is very much focused on the podcasters and anywhere from entry level to enterprise level. So let's dive in.
Yeah, absolutely. And just let me take a step back and kind of like telling you that Spreaker Enterprise is really a monetization platform for publishers. Obviously, our bread and butter is hosting and distribution, is where we're born, and that's what we created at the beginning of our journey as Voxnest and Spreaker. But we're very different from other platforms and from our competitors. Most of the hosting platforms are cost centers. In fact, publishers pay for services, to host and to distribute their content. But we're really focusing in becoming and being a revenue generator. Our goal in total is to kind of help monetize content and help publishers monetize their content via advertising. So that's what we go through today with a little bit of a deep dive demo on the Spreaker Enterprise plan.
Awesome. So the thing that I want to highlight here for publishers that are interested in the Spreaker platform is that this is all about monetization. It does host. It does have a lot of great features for you to have self-control that we're going to get into. But Spreaker has a very specific view of how they focus on monetization that we're going to get into later. And that is a primary component of what this tool is and the value they bring to the table. So let's dive in.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's start with some basics. So let's start with the people and with the items that we want to manage. So we're going to start at the organization level. Every publisher that gets into the platform and is up for the publisher plan, they basically get a container that is called organization. And in this container, they can have several different types of users. They have admin users. They can create unlimited admin users who have basically read and write privilege on everything that happens under the organization. You can have what we call collaborators who actually have access to one or more shows within the organization, and they really manage the content itself, while the administrators are more looking at not only the content, but also the monetization side of things. The collaborators are really just looking at managing the content and really uploading episodes, managing the metadata, and all that stuff that is related to the actual content itself. And then, as you can see here, we have admin collaborators, and then we have this account, which is actually an account that holds all the different podcasts and episodes. So you have three different ones: admin to see everything, collaborators to collaborate on one or more shows, and the actual network that contains all the podcasts and all the episodes.
Got it. So the layers are the organization, which is the entire account. We're in the Voxnest organization right there. And then we have the network, correct, which is a layer under it. So there could be multiple networks. Like if we take, for example, Pod News as a network, right? And we were on Spreaker, we would have Pod News as the organization. Pod News, Podcast, and Sounds Profitable could be their own networks. And then the individual shows under there, if I have two flavors of Sounds Profitable and James has two flavors of Pod News, we would be the shows under there. So 3 tiers. And then in each of those tiers, the user can be assigned to any of the levels from show, network, or organizer. On top of that, they can have full access to any of the levels that they're granted to, or they can have individual access like a collaborator for each of those as well.
That is correct.
Awesome. Okay. That's really great. I mean, that's one of the things that I think stands out a lot when people talk about enterprise features, which is this nebulous thing that I truly believe is more often someone lands an enterprise company as a partner and then they say they offer enterprise software. But when people talk about enterprise features, they mean full ability to mix and match what level and what access a user can have so that they can get the most out of everything, so that they can control and make sure that there's no risk involved of giving someone access to something that they shouldn't have just because there's somewhere else that they do need that access.
Correct.
Awesome.
Yeah, so once we set up the team, when we set up the accounts, when we set up all the different users, I'm going to switch to actually managing the podcast. And this is the dashboard where you can see all the different podcasts that are associated with the account. I'm in an admin account, so I see all the different podcasts that are connected to the organization. And because this is very basic, and I think that our audience is not interested in knowing how to upload an episode or edit metadata, I'm going to skip to a very, very relevant piece or part of the content management system, which is the section around distribution. Because once you have the podcast, once you have your content, now the most important thing is that people will listen to it. And in order to listen to it, you have to make sure, and this is something that we tell every publisher that we talk to, every podcaster, make sure you are on all the different listening platforms. There is no way to grow your audience if you're not everywhere. So we try to make it super easy and super simple for our publishers to actually manage their distribution. So we have created, with the help and with the collaboration of some of the listening platforms, API connections. So basically, you can go here and click on submit in any one of these listening platforms, and you can submit directly to their platform, basically for indexing. Now,
and to be clear on that, yep, you're still allowing them to have their full control and relationship, right?
Absolutely.
So I still create my Apple account, my Spotify account, my Amazon, my Google account. I create all these individual accounts, and you're just helping make sure that the push is there. So I still have to create those on there so that I still have ownership of it, not Spreaker, which is really important.
Absolutely.
And also, based on the size that you guys are at, it's safe to assume that with Spotify, you guys do have your pass-through contract, meaning that
is correct.
Spotify doesn't cache the content on there. Some of you might not be aware of this, but Spotify, depending on the size of the hosting platform, will just outright cache the episodes and handle that distribution. There is a contract process involved. It's honestly very straightforward, and I hope every hosting provider goes through it, but it allows them the ability to skip that and, actually be a hosting provider instead of letting Spotify do it. So with Spreaker set up like that, I do agree. There is no reason why you shouldn't distribute to everywhere when you own all the account information. Spreaker is facilitating that relationship, and none of these providers are set up at a disadvantage.
Absolutely. And again, I want to stress this out. Create your account on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on Google Podcast Manager. Really make sure that you claim your feed and make sure that you have a very easy way to submit your content and then to track your content and some of the stats that these listening platforms provide.
Yeah. And I know we skipped over the upload side and no need to spend a lot of time there. I guess my general question, honestly, is, do you keep abreast of the podcast namespace and all the changes and innovation going on, like the enhancements to the RSS feed? Are you guys actively involved in that? And will you be adding some of those features in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. And all these things that you just mentioned are on our roadmap. So
that's fantastic.
We are up to date. We want to make sure that our platform that is 10 years old, so we've been in the business for a long time, but we want to make sure that we update and make sure that our publishers and podcasters receive, top of the line type of service and top of the line type of technology. Absolutely.
That's fantastic. And I would emphasize to any publisher that checks out this platform, if you don't see a feature, don't just avoid a platform because of that. Talk to the person you're interacting with at that company and say, hey, I need this feature. Explain to them why, and they'll be very transparent on where it is in the roadmap, how they can work around it. There's a lot of cool things you can do with these partners. You just have to be vocal. If you don't explain what you're missing or what your needs are, they can't service you on that end. So just make sure that you review it and you talk to the person you're onboarding with.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, and something that is, related to this, we have a chat box on the bottom side of the page, and this gives all the publisher direct connection with our customer care. So if you have any questions, if you have any doubts, if you don't know how something works, you can always open this up and get, a quick conversation with our customer support that has a priority attendance for all the publisher plans.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think customer service is probably one of the bigger things that we don't talk about in this space. And I think that it can make or break a relationship with the platform. True. So having the ease of accessibility there is fantastic.
Absolutely. So we talked about users, we talked about podcasts, we talked about distribution. Now let's switch gear and really get into the meat of the conversation today, right? Is all about monetization and how we see monetization and how we build technology to monetize and to help monetize the content from publishers and content creators. So really, as Spreaker, we look at monetization in a couple of ways. Number one, if you don't have a sales team or if you don't sell in 100% of your inventory, we have an ad exchange that is connected to all the different marketplaces like Triton A2X or AdsWizz and Podwave and thousands of media buyers in the United States and globally that can actually help you with programmatic advertising. So these are pre-recorded ads that can be placed effortlessly and consistently because they're coming from so many different sources that we always have ads for the supply, so for the inventory. So number one is programmatic ads via the ad exchange. And then number two, and we're going into that a little later, it's our campaign manager. So this is really an ad server and an ad manager with a nice UI that you can use, that any publisher can use to basically run their own promos, their own sponsorship, their own direct deals. And then we can see how we can make them compete or integrate with our programmatic ad exchange. So looking at this,
that's a great way to look at it, right? I think that it's easy to bury the lead on the financial aspect of it, but like if you're listening to this, if you're watching this product deep dive, you're interested in making money for your podcast, you're interested in spending money on ads, you're interested in learning about the ad tech landscape. So we're going to get to where you put the ad markers into your episode to make sure that it's appropriately set. But what we're looking at right here is how do you upload to Spreaker and how do you just turn ads on? And Mattia, I really want you to take a second and explain how you guys view revenue in podcasting, because I think it's a little different. And I want to tee it up for you a little bit. So many people focus on, I have 6 or 12 or 18, there are more ad markers in my episodes, and I want $50 CPM. And I get it. I get that the excitement and the value of saying I command a very high CPM works. But if you have one sold for a month, and then you have 5 other empty spots because no one's going to pay 50, right? Or even if like the value drops, right? The total download value drops. And so Mattia and the entire team have been really focused on trying to change that mindset. So I'll kick it over to you. Tell me about how you guys view revenue and fill in podcast advertising.
Yeah, I think the conversation is always starting with like, how much is your CPM or how much can you get for 1,000 impression, right? Because CPM, at the end of the day, it's a cost per 1,000, right? A cost per 1,000 impressions. We want to change that because we think that looking at CPM, as you said, is not really the full picture. The full picture actually is 2 other components. And number one is the fill rate. And just to put it in lame term, the fill rate means that your rate or filling, your ability to put ads is incrementally it grows incrementally as you are adding more sources and more ability to place ads. Having an ad that runs at $50 CPM but does run for just like 1,000 impressions, that doesn't
That's
really give
$50.
you. That's $50, right?
Yeah, that might not be enough for a platform to cut you a check at some places.
Correct. And the other idea is that as probably many people are saying during these days, podcasting is a long-term business. This is a marathon, it's not a sprint. So we really need to provide the publisher with all the information, all the tools, or the technology to actually make their monetization strategy a long-term strategy that can hold up and can actually help them where their direct sales, where you have total control on the CPM. Absolutely, you can sell it at $50 CPM as much as you want, but then you probably are not selling more than 10, 20% of your inventory. What's going to happen with the 80% that you haven't unsold? This is money left on the table that no one is picking up, and you're just basically leaving there for no one to pick it up.
And it's so hard, right? Like, I want to emphasize that, like, so many people in podcasting who hit success and start to grow, they aren't familiar with advertising and ad tech. They've just had success with their show, and I'm so excited for them. And then so many people in podcast advertising and podcast ad tech don't have a long background in advertising technology or advertising in other digital fields, right? They call this backfill or remnant. And honestly, it's gross because it's foundational. All of these companies out there that are talking about $25, $50, $75 CPM and choose to leave things unfilled, well, you know, that's like having like a really nice master bedroom and having no foundation to put it on, right? There's nothing there to catch it. That's so much work for so little money to do a host read ad and do all these things. That foundational ad serving, that getting as close to 100% fill rate, that making sure that it matches your criteria for creative and it's not outputting to your listeners, that's so important, right? That's what advertising is. And you can choose, hey, I am only going to do the $50 ones, and that's fine. That is absolutely choice, the same way that you choose your content. But if your goal here is to make money in podcasting, the option is hire a sales team, go at it heavy and still have unfilled inventory, or work with a partner like Spreaker here to fill all the other inventory and buy into their methodology. Some partners will have a floor that you can set, and those partners probably won't get closer to 100% fill, but you'll have a little bit more control. Spreaker has an entire team that's optimizing this across everything that they do through all the different partners that they connect to. And they have this methodology that says fill and price are what's important together, but one can't be sacrificed for the other. And you mentioned that you're connected to a lot of partners. I'd love to hear what partners you get ads from.
So AdWave and Podwave by AdsWiz, Triton A2X. And I have to say is we have thousands and thousands and thousands of media buyers and advertisers. Those are the top, big marketplaces where some of the revenues are coming in, but they're not the only ones. And so we're getting a lot of media buyers, especially in the United States, but also abroad, where we don't leave any listen or any downloads unsold because we're trying to really monetize any possible sold. And you can do that at scale. You can do that with a sales team of a few people. Definitely, you can sell it at high CPM when you have a very dedicated and very expensive sales team that can run this. But then when you have to scale, you have to look at multiple thousand and thousand of sales team across the globe that sells your content anywhere is listen, anywhere is download.
Yeah, and I want to emphasize that the partners out there that do direct sales and that offer this oftentimes partner with other companies that are almost competitive to them, but only focus in other countries. So when you're doing direct sales, like, take a look at that. Some of the bigger names in there also have partners that are selling in that country, not only for them, but for other people. So that's how many different hands have to be involved in this entire process. And any partner that is looking to do direct sales for you on a technical level, or like a second seat level where after you sell, they have a sales team for you, I guarantee you that platform also does similar things to what Spreaker does, but it's not their main focus. So it means that it gets less of a priority because it's always in their best interest to sell your inventory direct. So they're always going to prioritize that at the detriment of this level. This takes out that middle level and allows you to always sell your own, but it also allows you to flick a switch, set some customization, and make money. And that's what this is about, right? You didn't set 6 ad slots because you can't set 6 ad slots and get upset that they're filled. Yeah, you can't, you're not going to be upset that they get filled. And if you are, drop the number of ad slots. It's super okay. If you want less ads, put less ads in there, but don't put 18 slots in there and be upset that it's filled. That's on you. So absolutely. I think that this is really great. And we're looking at this right here. This is so simple, right?
Very simple.
Log in here.
This is just
Yeah, I click that ad exchange activation and turns it on. And this is what a little under about a month's worth of data looks like presented in here, and we got impressions and revenue. And so remember, downloads are the total number of times the episode has been downloaded or streamed, depending like on IAB standards, which Spreaker does follow. And then impressions. So if I have 1 million downloads in 6 like ad impression markers, then I would have the available inventory of 6 million impressions. So this is showing the difference between the two. And this is really great. You're showing on here that there are some months and some days that there are more impressions than downloads. So that means that there were multiple ads served to each download or to most downloads. And then sometimes it's a little bit under, meaning that it could have either easily been spread, or there's some downloads that didn't get ads and others that got multiple. This is a great quick view. And I love that it says see more, because I'm sure that it's going to dig into things a little bit deeper there too, right?
Yes, and we can actually dig into that right now as we're talking about it. Let me just show you. This is kind of like the view of impression and revenue. Very simple. You have the impression and revenue information. You can always download the report as a CSV file, so not a problem. You can have this view at the organization level, at the network level, and then at the show level and the episode level. So you can have all this information broken down depending on the views that you want to create for your internal usage or for your customers, for example.
Now, can I schedule that CSV and that report to automatically send to me, or send me a notification on a day of the week to remember to check
Not
it?
at the moment. Not at the moment, but it's something that we've been asked many times and we put in the roadmap. Absolutely.
You can put my name on that list too. I love that feature.
Absolutely.
It makes things way easier for the people who don't want to log in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One thing that I want to show, because one of the things that we are, programmatic ads, you get ads, pre-recorded ads from a lot of different sources and a lot of different places. So many publishers were asking about, so what kind of ads I'm going to get? And so one of the first step to provide information so people and publisher can make informed decisions is really giving a breakdown of the IAB categories that are available for all the ads that have been displayed, that have been downloaded and stitched into the actual content. And so this is one of the first steps into that transparency and ability to get information about programmatic ads and what is coming from the marketplace. But it's a very, very useful tool to kind of understand the type of IAB categories that are available and they're being generating percentage of impressions, amount of money, and number of impressions. So it's a very, very cool tool to look at this information very quickly.
I agree. And so publishers, just so you know, IAB categories are like a crazy long list where advertisers are supposed to select all the ones that they're relevant to them. I would love to tell you that you could call somebody at an advertiser and they can rattle off their IAB categories, but it's not that accurate on that end. Like, I've never found a publisher or an advertiser that knew them inside and out, but they get close. They identify what they want there. And this is really powerful because not only does this show you, hey, if this was my show, I would know that I should probably feel a little bit more confident reaching out to insurance advertisers, because clearly my show is doing well with them, and perhaps I can strike up a direct deal. But this also gives you an idea of like what isn't matching well. Absolutely. Or categories that maybe I'm just like, okay, that's not bad. Fast food isn't bad, and it's $130 that I made. And that's good money, but I just don't want to be associated it anymore. And that will give you the ability and flexibility as we get into the ad marker side of it. You can actually use this information to say where you do and don't want to be part of.
Absolutely. You are a perfect cue point. Let me just switch our gears. So we talked about this, and now let's go into a couple of things, really. One is selecting your ad option. So selecting if you want to pre-roll, post-rolls, or mid-rolls, and where you want to place them. And then here we have, and now that we're talking about the IAB categories, let's stick to that topic for a second. Here we have a way to manage the type of advertisers that are coming to the programmatic ads. So number one, we have a section called sensitive categories. These categories that includes pregnancy, sexuality, politics, and legal content is really coming out of the experience, and the requests are coming from all the different advertisers and publishers to actually select this category as very sensitive, either on the demand side or on the supply side. And we actually block them by default. as a sort of like a way to do brand safety. However, any publisher can enable them and activate it on their content. So this is really, years and years of requests and questions, and we kind of put those four as a very sensitive ones. Now
I'm gonna we talked about this before, so we had the fair warning on that. My wife is pregnant. I'm very excited for that. I'm going to be a dad again. It's going to be very cool in July. And, pregnancy on there is so weird to see that on there, but not like alcohol. I would love to ask you to speak to that a little bit. Obviously, I'm not here to put you under the gun to say this client asked for it, but why pregnancy over alcohol is an automatically excluded category?
This has been a filter that we've done, based on the feedback that we get from all the advertisers, brands, and publishers. So we just put 4 as a top one. We give the opportunity to actually enable them. And if they don't want to enable them, these are still, blocked and they're not coming in. So it's really coming from the market, and we decided to put this 4 as the top ones.
I'm not going to argue with you removing one, but I am going to put in my formal feature requests to put in alcohol into the excluded or sensitive categories.
Absolutely.
And what I want to say to everybody here is this isn't representative of your show, right? So if your show is on pregnancy, you have no concerns here. This isn't going to exclude you. This means the products that these people are selling, the advertisers that are going to be putting ads into your show, these are their categories. So while I personally would encourage people to take a look at the sensitive categories and really figure out what you do and don't want, and I hope that Spreaker adds alcohol over into the sensitive categories on there, this is for you to have control. You could decide that dating is, you just don't want a Match.com ad on your show. That's super okay. You click that off here. This is something that I encourage you to read and go through and feel comfortable with and add or remove them. Download the full IAB list, go through it, ask for examples of advertisers, get a feel for it, and then feel comfortable talking to your partner like Spreaker about what you do and don't want in there and why. And they'll show you good examples, and they'll validate your concerns. But what's really neat is you showed me this feature earlier. What happens if we uncheck one?
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to say that alcohol is not in the sensitive categories, but is in the other categories that are being shown on the second tab. So you can always remove directly from here, for example, cocktails and beers and wine. And one thing that we added here, because these are not excluded by default, we also add in the risk of losing revenue, right? The percentage of revenue that you can lose if you remove certain categories. And this is just a way for us to give you more information and to make smart decisions. Now, these are the top 21 that have been more relevant and the ones that we've been asked by publishers to put, in the blocking category for a long time. And so we expose the first 21. As you say, IAB category, there are hundreds. And so we just want to start with a very, interesting and relevant set of categories. And then we're going to probably open up to more and more as we see fit and as we see, the ability of using this tool and making sure that people are using it correctly. Now,
but that also means that my reporting will show all of the categories, correct?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The reporting is not limited to that. Yes. Absolutely.
And so if you see a category that you're not comfortable with, you should reach out to your Spreaker representative, because I'm sure that they'll help you block that on there. And this is really neat, right? Knowing what you're losing by removing it is valuable to know. I mean, absolutely. Podcasting, we're all in podcasting because there's something cool and unique here. There are plenty of us that are here to make money, but there's an artistic aspect to it. There is a comfort and ownership aspect to all of this. So if you don't want wine ads, don't let that 2.43% make you think you're going to be sleeping in a box tomorrow. Make that decision, but this is to give you an informed. This is a decision to give you that formed information, and you're set up for success with this. This lets you know what to expect, and it's not meant to fear you back into it. It's meant to keep you fully educated.
Absolutely, and education is it's a constant vision and mission of all this tool. Providing education, providing information to make smart decisions. So on the category side, I think we're good. We can flip on the ad options section where we actually set the markers. You can set, pre-rolls and post-rolls. We have a max of 2 pre-roll and post-rolls to make sure that they're not taking over the
10
over
ads
the content.
to start it off. And let's roll up to that real quick. The thing I want to emphasize to people here is that Spreaker's definition of pre-roll and post-roll is true beginning and true end, right? The first thing you hear and the last thing you hear. Everything else is a mid-roll. You can place it how you want and explore around with that. I'm personally of the preference that a pre-roll can be into the first 25% of a show, 5 minutes, whatever you want to mark it as, because it's valuable for the listener to hear your voice first before they hear an ad. So if you don't like pre-rolls at the absolute beginning, uncheck that. Go down to the next section that we're going to talk about, and you can expand it here. But these markers, they can be, what's the maximum size that a marker can be? Like if I say 2 pre-rolls, how long can each of those pre-rolls be?
Usually they're between 15, 30 seconds. This is the average. 30 seconds, I think, is the average ad that comes through programmatic ads.
What's the largest you'll accept?
Oh, it's unlimited. There's no limit.
Gotcha. And is that a metric that you guys show in reporting, how long the ads are on average, or?
We have not exposed that, but it's definitely something that we think about because, again, looking at, informing and educating our publishers is the most important thing. And so giving all the tools that can help them decide what to do and how to do it with regards to monetization, I think it's key. So these are all data points that we've been studying. There's a lot of R&D that is going on right now exactly around what type of data we want to present and what type of data makes sense, right?
Yeah.
You can expose all the data of the world. It doesn't mean that you can make smart decision. Like, for example, 100%. If we go back to the IAB categories, right? We can expose 150 categories, but then we're making people crazy with all these categories instead of giving them a set. Let's work on the first one, and then let's expand as we see that the market understands those categories and the publisher really manage them correctly.
There are a lot of tools out there that are everything, right? It's like all 300 plus IAB categories. It's every bell and whistle on there. And sometimes that can be overwhelming. Not everybody needs all of those features. And I even go as far to say as few people actually need all of those features. But a lot of people like buying those features. I'm that idiot who will buy whatever car or whatever toy I'm buying is just for a little bit more, I can upgrade and I can have all these things that I'm never going to use because it's appealing to me on a sales tactic. But Spreaker here, the thing I'm going to emphasize is that they have a methodology for how you make money. And their platform tailors towards that. It allows you to sell ads, which we're going to go through with the markers here. And it has their mindset of fill all your inventory. And so that is really something you need to keep in mind. There are so many companies out there in the space that will just say, we can do everything. And that's neat. But what that really means is we have the tools so you can go do everything. Spreaker built something here that if you agree with that methodology, if that fits your goals and mindset, then you're going to be able to get a lot of the stuff automated for you and make money, which is honestly a little bit refreshing.
Yeah, no, I think you're totally right. And actually, on the optimization, concept that you just said, we actually have an optimization check. So we help publisher, telling them if they have pre-roll, if they have enough ad breaks, and if they have enough ads on a specific episode. And so this is really key because, the question that we get is always like, how many ads should I put in my episode or in my shows? And we basically mathematically generating a rule that help them decide, how many mid-rolls, how many post-rolls, and how many pre-rolls they need to get. And this one obviously is the optimization check is all optimized, but if it's not, the system will tell you, and you can change either the number of pre-rolls or the number of post-rolls, and then you can definitely, look for that specific moment where the host is calling for commercial or if there is a natural pause to actually set your mid-roll. You can have a single, double, or triple. So it's really up to you. You can have back-to-back single, double, or triple as much as you want. And so this is really a very simple way to add a mid-roll. You can always add it manually. I know many people in the radio business have been doing this for years, and with the timestamp. But if you want and if you have them from production, you can add it here, or you can do it manually with the waveform. Absolutely.
I'm right there with it. Know your timestamps. And also for the hosts that are terrible like me, breathe. Allow your producer or your editor to put in an ad slot, because it's if you don't give any breathing room, if you go right to the next thing, there's no room for that. But I like that. I like the ability to set one marker and say multiple ads can go here. So this is showing us, we've gone through like the account setup, we've gone through how to make money, we've gone through now where to set the ad markers. So I'm doing great. And Spreaker calls me up and says, I want to advertise with you direct, Brian. I want you to read the ad. So we got the markers. How do we do that?
So once you have the markers and you have your own direct campaign and you have your own direct deal with an advertiser or with an agency, you can actually switch to our campaign manager. So the campaign manager actually uses the cue points that we set earlier to decide where to place the campaign. And I'm going to go into a Deepdive Spreaker Enterprise campaign that we created for the occasion. And here you have what we call the line item, which could be called order, flight, depending on the platform. Many use different terms. But basically, the line item is where you have all the different information about your campaign. And so I want to focus on a couple of things because this is pretty self-explanatory. The line item name, the audio ad, so you can add an MP3 file of your audio, can be, as we were talking about, from programmatic marketplaces, usually it is 30 seconds. But in this case, you can actually add, largest and longest files for your ad, especially if you're, reading it and you're creating a different type of pre-recorded ad.
And it's so nice of Spreaker to do $25 CPM for the Sounds Profitable podcast, though I think to hit that many impressions, it might be a few years.
I know. I just put it as many.
No, but it's good. I like it. I'll just give you a hard time on that. I think this is neat here. The thing I want to emphasize to people is that this level of under campaign, then the flight, right? Called strategy, called different things, called creative in this sense, even. This is a single creative setup. Right. I can't upload multiple creatives. It's not going to rotate through them. So if you have different strategies and different creatives, you do need to break it down a little bit further. But that, in a situation, the publishers that this platform appeals to probably don't have 4 strategies with 3 creative executions each needing to build out 12 different flights in here. They're more often than not have 1 creative, maybe 2 or 3 different targeting. So this setup is good. If someone's trying to lure you with something bigger and better, just remember that bigger and better doesn't mean complicated sometimes.
Exactly. And you can always, create flights or line items with all the different creatives. There's no limited. And actually in the publisher panel, you can create as many campaign and as many line items as you want. There's unlimited and just use it. Yeah. So a couple of things that I want to show you is around the delivery mechanism. Very simple, pacing algorithm or as fast as possible, impression goal and price CPM. We've talked about. You have your start date and end date. But one thing that I really want to focus is around our priority. And so the priority system is very simple, but at the same time is complex and very intelligent, in my opinion, because it allows you with priority from 1 to 4 to actually manage the priority of your campaign. So if you have a campaign that you set as a sponsorship, what that means is that campaign, if there are multiple sources for an ad for that slot, the campaign that is set as sponsorship will always win. It's your best deal. It's your $100 CPM. It's your sponsorship for that show that you want to make sure that you're not missing any available impression. And so you set it as sponsorship. And then you can actually manage the priority with other direct campaigns with a high, medium, and low. And you can really play around that depending on your monetization strategy.
But your programmatic setup that's at ad exchange level, number 5, right?
That is correct. That is
awesome.
Correct. So if you want to compete with the programmatic source, once you have activated the monetization on the other tab, you can come here and say, you know what? If an ad exchange has a higher CPM, I'll give that spot to the ad exchange. If my CPM is higher, at that point, I want to place my ad with my direct campaign. And so this is
price competition. Yeah.
It's price competition completely.
And that's so good, right? So when you look at this, what this means is if you set two things at number one and one's at 20 and one's at 25, that means the 25 is going to always win until it's out of impressions.
Correct.
And sponsorship, like Mattia said, is about you want it. You want it 100% of the time. You don't want anybody to get in your way. High, medium, and low, very attractive. That's three areas that people can play with. There are some platforms that have 10 or 20 or whatever priority rankings, and you just forget from ad ops to ad ops person, yield person to yield person. It's so hard to remember that, like, Brian likes to default to 3 to make sure it happens, and then Tony likes to default to 5. This is high, medium, and low. It's got names. It's got colors associated to it. It's got this great feel. And Ad Exchange is so good, because that means you can go negotiate direct deals and say to somebody like, hey, if I have the inventory available and it's the right price, then you win it. And even more than that, remnant, that on a 6 after that, that's for promos. That's for other opportunities that are less lucrative to you, that you don't want to think about. Set and forget, assume that the inventory is effectively unfilled. Because if the ad exchange didn't want it and one of your direct sales didn't want it, use it in some way. I'm not a fan of the word remnant, but it's the fun of inheriting years, decades even, of other ad spaces into podcasting. But that's really good to know, that the fact that you can compete with all of the programmatic inventory that Spreaker is providing you and win out based on price, it's killer. Great way to, if you feel like you want to raise the floor and you're doing good on direct sales, you can make it compete there. But I really suggest that you buy into their mindset of fill as much as possible, set your own ads higher.
Absolutely. And a couple more things that I want to go through. Obviously, the third-party impression URL. This is all the attribution technology. Here we have a URL from Chartable, but we can work with Podsites, with Podtrack, Chartable, and other companies are actually providing this type of services. So this is just a place to place that URL for the attribution needs. And then here we go into targeting the zone, where you can select the property, so you can target a pre-roll, the post-rolls, or mid-rolls. And you can create also inclusion and exclusion rules, where you can place up to the position of a specific mid-roll. So this is related to zone. We target in geolocation. So in United States, we go down to the DMA, while in other countries like Canada, for example, we down to region. And then targeting content, this is really important. If there's nothing here, there are still include and exclude rules. But if there's nothing here, it means that campaign will run across all your organization. So all the podcasts that are available under your container. And or you can create include exclude rules at the network level, at the podcast level, or at the episode level. So
an entire network, but skip one show is a great way to do that. But what would be really great on a safety level here is that if nothing was selected, if they actually by default just included the breakdown, if it included everything in there and they had to exit out of it, or something that let people know that, because I personally have misflighted ads many times in my career. So any sort of safety net that lets you know that this is going to go to everything would be very helpful.
Yeah, and there's also, I was mentioning before, there's a customer care support that can answer any question right away. But there's also an help.spreaker.com where all this information is very well laid out in articles where you can read, inform before you start doing line items and campaigns. We highly recommend to read the manual and then start using the tool. So just one thing about targeting content. We were talking about targeting network, podcast, episode, but we can also target by category. So one of the metadata points is the Apple podcast categories. So if you have a large number of shows, you can actually target true crime versus sports. You can target the publishing date and the content age. And this is really, really good for separating certain campaigns from new releases and back catalog, so that you can really make sure that certain campaigns, certain ads, certain promotions are going towards an audience that is listening to a specific type of show or a specific type of episode.
If you could have changed the format of your show, And there could be something so drastic, and you did that for the last 3 months, but the last 9 months before that, you are missing that, right? And so you're able to adapt an ad differently in the more recent 3 months, but the last 9 months, you want to address something differently. You want to sell a product that you're not talking about directly in the show itself, whatever the case may be. Content, age, and publish date is really good to, instead of just looking at what show and where, it helps you figure out when. What content? That's very, very attractive.
Yeah, especially now that networks are, building different seasons within the series that have completely different type of content. So this is a very good tool to do exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
And the last one is targeting device. So this one is really advanced, in my opinion. It's a very it's an advanced feature that is basically allow you to target user agents that are, the browser, the application, the type of devices that any listener is using. And you can really segment with an include and exclude list the type of audience that you want to go after. For example, you can target, Spotify listeners versus iOS listeners. So it's a very, very good and advanced tool that, publisher might be interested in using at this moment in time or in the future. So we put it here because it's a very cool tool.
I like it. The user agent is so messy in podcasting, and I hope you guys join the Open Podcast Analytics Working Group, which has all these documented so you can pull in and normalize them. The people who are messing around with this, the people who are trying it, there's so much value here, but just the things to keep in mind is that, like, not every iOS user agent identifies itself as iOS. Not everything that is Apple Core Media is actually an Apple product. Some of it might be other apps on the Apple framework using the default user agent. So user agent and target device is definitely an advanced feature that you should explore. But I think that I would kill to see you guys start normalizing some of that to make it a drop down for people who aren't as advanced to start digging into it.
We're looking into that. We're thinking about this because, every time every time I talk to publishers, we always say, if you need to use this feature, let's talk about it because we can provide you instruction on how to really use it. And so I agree with you. There's way to make it this very easy and either working with us or through a set of standardization.
Yeah, but this is a great example of a knob that not everybody needs to turn. Right?
Absolutely.
It's something that you think you want to do. And if you have a campaign that's targeted different to iOS versus Android, Apple versus Spotify, like, very cool. Good on you for being progressive. But I think that today, and even 2021, I don't think that we're there to the point where it's so pressing of a feature that everybody needs. But this is a great list of targeting tools for direct sales that allows you to take leadership of your own inventory or compete with the ad exchange that they have available here. I'm a big fan of that. So, we mentioned it a little bit earlier about the reporting and specifically, you guys have been IAB certified for a while, correct?
Yep, absolutely. Yep, for a couple of years now, I think. Yeah. That's
awesome. Yeah, and IAB, at the time of recording this, IAB is just releasing for public comment the V2.1, and so Spreaker and the other parties are actively involved in the tech lab to voice their opinion and encourage change and growth in that. So these numbers that you're seeing here, if you're migrating over or you're migrating from there, they're IAB verified. That means that they're going to have, a little bit more value applied to them, to advertisers who put a priority on that. But it's also about a standardization between these companies. I have my own biases against the IAB, but what I do know is that right now, today, it allows you to move from platform to platform and have your numbers be closer matched than if everybody came up with their own methodology. And that's really important.
Yeah, it's a great standardization tool. So we talk the same language and we can report on the same numbers. And now that we're talking about, statistics, I just want to show you and go through a little bit of what statistics are available on Spreaker platform. So this is a view at the organization level. Remember that we have that big container that you have all the users and all the networks. Now here you have a snapshot of your downloads in the last 30 days, your ad exchange performance, and your campaign performance. So this is a very quick way to look into your statistics. As I said before, you can go into, the organization, the network, the show, and the episode. And we're going to dig into downloads first, because we already mentioned the ad exchange, and the campaigns is basically the same one, impression or revenue at all the different levels. But let me dig into the downloads and the podcast performance information. So here we have all the podcast statistics. You can set 7 days, you can set 30 days, you can set last week, you can set last month. Actually, we show up to 2 years, 24 months of data on the platform. So it's a very, very long amount of time that you can take, and you can actually review your data for the performance of your shows and your episodes. And at any point in time, any moment, you can actually download the report in a CSV file. So you have downloads. Here you have listeners. So the unique listeners is still a IAB certified data point. You can have multiple downloads from the same show, but different episode. And then you have unique listeners calculated by IAB standards. You have geolocation. So you have the nice map. You have country breakdown and city breakdown. Very simple. You have podcast statistics about user agents. We were talking about the user agents a little earlier before. And so you have a way to basically look at all the different user agents that your content has been distributed to, and you can add and remove all the ones so that you can see how they perform competitively. We can also have device. So you have software and hardware breakdown. So you have percentage of where your content has been listened to, either phone, Android, Windows, tablet, etc. And then the last one that I wanna highlight is what we call the evolution statistics, which basically takes the total listen in the first 30 days, which is the most important time for an episode, right? Is the 30 days from publication. And we want to compare them one by one so that you can see if your audience has been growing and has been steady and has been getting bigger and bigger by looking at the curve. And just a quick way to look at the stats, the last episode needs to be on top as a curve and longer than the other ones. In that case, the publisher could say, good job, we actually retained the audience and we gain some audience episode by episode. So a very quick way to do that.
I like that. I think that's a neat view. I think the only fear it gives me is if I looked at my podcast and that, I'd be calling your support team saying, hey, it doesn't look that way. My first episode did way better than my most recent one. So what do we do? And that's a whole nother deep dive right there.
It's another conversation there.
We kind of buried this. We didn't talk about this at the beginning, and I don't think it's a bad thing, but what's this cost? You said that what is this cost? This is an enterprise tool for a publisher to use to monetize their inventory and sell their direct inventory. So what is the pricing models available to me as a publisher if I wanted to start using this?
So the publisher plan comes $120 per month. It's a flat fee. It's unlimited and all included. So you have unlimited downloads, unlimited users, unlimited impressions, unlimited shows, and unlimited episodes. So it's really an unlimited plans with all included for $120 flat fee. No surprise at the end of the month. And we really focus on the ability to create and generate revenue for podcasters and publishers. So we want to take that, how much your service is going to cost out of the picture, and want to focus on really making this a tool for monetization.
And so that doesn't matter if I have 10 networks or 100 shows, it's $120.
So for each network, it's a one publisher plan. You can definitely have multiple networks. You can have unlimited networks. And obviously, if you have multiple brands and multiple networks, come talk to us. We can definitely come up with it. But
if I have 10 shows or 20 shows in one network, that's the 120.
You can have unlimited shows, unlimited episodes under one network. Absolutely.
That is a really attractive offering. And, I wish I could do tracking pixels on Vimeo, but I can't. So for everybody listening, I worked with the Spreaker team. Mattia was very generous here. If you email enterprise@Spreaker.com and you mention that you saw the Sounds Profitable product deep dive, they'll give you 1 month free.
Absolutely.
So Mattia, this was so great to walk through. There's so many neat features here. I think that what I really appreciate the most of this is that you have a strong methodology. You guys have a stance on what revenue is and what generating revenue is in podcast advertising. You stick by it. You built a product around it that supports that mindset and view. If you are a publisher and you're looking to monetize and this matches your view, or you don't have a view yet, you should really check this out, especially with the free month. And I think there's a lot of revenue potential for people out there. And I think that some people just wait a little too long for that $50 CPM to fill 100% of their inventory. And I hate to break it to you, but it doesn't happen for anybody. But Mattia, so great to have you here. I really, really appreciate this. And, I hope to have you guys back when you have some new feature updates so we can go over them.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, everyone, for listening and watching.